The ones that are north of Main Street, many of them are in really bad shape after 6 years of wear and tear. And so I've been talking with Tony Tyrell to see if the Angels Camp Veterans Memorial District will fund replacement of about 40 to 48 of those flags, because they really don't look very good. And they will be meeting on Friday to see. They funded all of that purchase in the past, so just to give credit where credit's due.
Thank you. Ann.
Thank you. Okay. Any other public comment?
Gina Gonzalez, Angels Camp. I don't know if anybody's interested in ham radio or getting your license to be a ham radio. We did a test with our animal rescue group and found that our cell phones work to senders, and then after that text messaging stopped. So in case of an emergency situation, our ham radio worked all the way through, all the way up and all the way down, both rounds. So there's a ham class coming up, and I will leave a flyer out there, and anybody that's interested can tap me on the shoulder and I will make sure they get the information. It's a cram, and so you read the test and you hopefully will pass it. It's not that difficult, but it is standard. But if anybody's interested in becoming a ham radio operator.
May I have one of your flyers for my file?
Thank you. Any other public comment?
Sorry, I was a little late, a little excitement on my street today. I didn't plan on making this comment, but I'll make it again. I made it once about 7 or 8 years ago, and it was either ignored or people that want to make some money made it not happen. I would like to see no fireworks sold in this town. We just had a big fire out on Finnegan Lane again. This is the third one within 100 feet of the same place in less than 10 years. It's too much. They got on it today. There were at least a dozen fire trucks there, probably 30 people, 3 airplanes in the air, a helicopter with its crew. How much does that cost? And how much is that compared to the profit made by people selling fireworks? It doesn't compute in my book, especially when my house is right on top of the hill behind that fire. I would appreciate any effort you guys can make to stop the sale of fireworks, at least in this town where you have some control. In the county you don't, but in this town you do. It'll go a little ways to stopping that kind of thing, which could end up being a disaster.
John,
Sorry, I'm a little excited.
could I ask, were any houses affected? I know up on Gold Cliff when we were
No.
watching.
It was on the other side of Gold Cliff,
Oh, I thought so.
just above the swimming hole.
Okay.
And the first fire person I bumped into said they suspected it's the same thing as happened the previous time, was kids with fireworks started the fire. And it goes so fast. So it's gotten into my property. 2 of my fences were destroyed. Dozers going in there, you know, I don't mind that because it's better than having your house burned up. But I don't want to say bad words, but this has got to stop. Thank you.
Thank you, John. And I think we can get, when we get to staff, maybe we can get an update on that. But I think the fire department is still out. Yeah, they're mopping up right now. Yeah. Okay. Okay, any other public comment? No. Okay. So moving on. Item number 4, we have a oath of office for our newest deputy, sergeant, I should say, sorry, Mr. Scott Ellis.
Can I do a quick intro?
Yeah, of course, yes.
So I'm super excited about this addition. Scott Ellis comes to us with a lot of experience and a great background. He started out his law enforcement career here in Angels Camp back in 2000. Worked here for a short period of time, then went on to Turlock, did 16 years with Turlock, promoted up through the ranks there to a sergeant, worked just about every assignment I believe that department has. As a detective, canine handler, SWAT officer. His most recent assignment prior to leaving was traffic sergeant in the motor unit. And then from there, he went on to teach. He taught at a high school level for a period of time, and then most recently, prior to coming back to us, was a program manager for a private security company that was doing hurricane relief work in Puerto Rico. So he's got his family here, his wife and children, and anyway, I'm just super excited to have him back, and I hope everybody welcomes him.
Thank you. I guess it doesn't matter.
Raise your right hand and repeat after me. I state your name, do solemnly swear
I, Richard Scott Ellis, do solemnly swear
that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States
that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California
and the Constitution of the State of California
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
that I will bear true faith and allegiance
that I will bear true faith and allegiance
to the Constitution of the United States
to the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California,
and the Constitution of the State of California,
that I take this obligation freely
that I take this obligation freely
without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion,
without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion,
and that I will well and faithfully
and that I will well and faithfully
discharge the duties upon which I am about to enter.
discharge the duties upon which I am about to enter. My best on, so there's a good opportunity for her to give me a good poke here.
Congratulations and welcome back to Angels. Okay, moving on to agenda item number 5. It's an interview and appointment of the planning commissioner. We have one applicant, Jessica Johnson. The term expires June 30th, 2021. At this point, since we have one applicant, I want to find out from the council how you would like to go forward. Do you want to have her do an introduction, or do we want to go ahead and do an interview? Since there's one applicant, it's really
I
up
would
to
say
you.
let's just do an introduction, then
I agree.
Okay, so
I
there's
think most of us
consensus?
know who she is.
Okay, so, Jessica? Yep, come on up and introduce yourself and, why you decided to, I know you put it in the packet, but for the public.
Sure.
Yeah.
So my name is Jessica Johnston. I live here in Angels Camp, and I was born and raised here, went through the local school system, commuted from here to college, and am now currently raising a family here. So I've always had an interest in planning and development, and I'm eager to learn more about it and get involved in my community.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Is there any public comment? No? Oh, John.
I forgot to say who I was last time, I was so nervous. I'm John Broder, 1860 Finnegan Lane, also Chair of the Planning Commission. I am so happy to see somebody step up. And we need one more person. Glad to have you aboard.
Okay. Oh.
My name is Patsy Gonzalez, 1600 Depot Road. I also am a planning commissioner, and I read her application online, and I just am excited and hope that you think about her. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment? before I bring it back to council? Nope. Okay, so back to council for any further discussion.
I don't have a discussion, but I'd like to just say thank you, Jessica. I think that you will be a good addition to the board. I think that you value Angels Camp history and can also see the future. And so I think that's a balance that is needed and very complimentary for the city.
And Jessica, I'd just like to thank you. I noticed the last couple of years with Calaveras leadership, getting involved with the homeless task force, getting involved with the park, and you've really become a leader in the community, and we've noticed. And so I think not only do we need one more person, but I think you're the person. So thank you very much.
And I think with your organizational ability and communication skills that you'll be a real value to the community.
Okay, any other?
Just
Nope,
welcome.
we're going forward.
I'll
Welcome.
I'll be proud to move that we accept Planning Commission applicant Jessica Johnston to the term expiring June 30th, 2021 to the Planning Commission.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Congratulations, welcome.
Jessica, you'll be sworn in at the July 12th Planning Commission meeting here at 6 o'clock.
Next, item number 6, presentation of award. So at this point, I'm going to hand it over to May Kelly, a former city administrator, and she will be presenting an award of recognition to Ann Forrest. So, May.
Hi, I'm Mary Kelly. I'm a retired City of Angels employee. I want to thank Melissa for letting me do this. This has been in the works really since the previous city administrator was here, and it never got developed, so I appreciate you letting me do this. I feel a little nervous all of a sudden. Thing I want to say about Ann, I know I'm just going to forget a ton of things, but she has done so much for the city, and her dedication, her commitment. I'll just name a couple things, and the July 4th celebration, if it wasn't for her, she developed that whole party at Utica Park. Her and I worked together at the Angels Camp Commemorative Committee, but this no longer exists, I don't think. See, I'm a little nervous. She was past president of Angels Camp Business Association, past president of DAC, past president of the Museum Commission, and I see she is going to be reappointed to the Museum Commission again. She's volunteered, she's worked herself, and she's been, for the last decade, I have worked with her, the facade grant that we got, wayfinding. She is involved in all of this stuff, and I just think she deserves this little award. And I know I'm forgetting a million things, and if anybody else wants to say something, they're more than welcome, but I want to hand this to her first. And it says, if I can read it, with our greatest appreciation, we hereby present Ann Forrest with this award in recognition of your ongoing commitment, enthusiasm, hard work, and your dedicated service to the City of Angels and the citizens of Angels Camp. Thank you, Ann.
Oh, thank you.
And I know it's long overdue, and I know there's other stuff she's done, and I can't bring it all out, but there's just a million.
Thank you very, very much. Yes, thank you. Did you all see this?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's very nice. Thank you. I will treasure that. I appreciate it. And it has been my pleasure to do things in Angels Camp. We moved here at the end of 2002. And actually, I was thinking today my father would be very proud of this because as a child, he used to say, don't complain about things, do something. And so that's everywhere we've lived. I've tried to become part of the community, even in Hong Kong, which is a city of 10 million people, in terms of looking for problems and opportunities in trying to solve it. And so it has really been a pleasure for me because First of all, it got me out of the house, and my husband thanks you all for that. But it's a chance to meet people in a new community, and I hope that lots of other people who are new to Angels Camp will take the same course and get involved, so they will see what terrific people we have living here. I know the city is now, in a financial crisis, and there's certainly a lot of, structural problems that we have to overcome, but I realized this week that this is the 170th anniversary of the founding of Angels Camp, 2018, from 1848. And so certainly this city has been through lots and ups and downs in those 170 years. They've come up, they've changed, and I know that there's a lot of rapid change going on, but I have great faith in the council, the city government, particularly under Melissa's leadership now, and in the people of Angels Camp. I have become, particularly over the last 2 or 3 years with the Mark Twain Wild West Fest, which is a real community-wide event that, thanks to Debbie Ponte, so many young people, I call them, everybody's young for me, young families who have either been born here, raised here, and come back, gone away to school, lived elsewhere, and come back. But they were there, they really care about the city, and they are there to help and to do things. And it has been a real privilege to work with them, and it gives me great hope, and I hope it does for you all, that this city will continue to grow and expand and do the things that are really important. I'm particularly heartened, because of the problems we're having, that the city and the council are letting more people volunteer and step up. For years, we've sort of been like the city wanted to control everything, and the volunteers were sort of pushed to the side like we were too much trouble. And I see now with the park and some of these other things that volunteers are stepping in to do what the city can. And I really encourage you to encourage it, accept it, and appreciate it, because that's really where the growth in Angels Camp will come, and the support. So thank you very much. This is terrific, and I shall treasure it. And there's still some more projects I'm working on. So not the end.
There's one thing I do want to point out before we go to the next agenda. When I first met Ann, it was the start of the branding team. And it was the start of really the mobilization of redefining what Angels Camp is. And I think that really needs to be pointed out, that the work and that has now become DAC, and what you see now with Wild West, that really all started at the blood bank in that conference room, with all of the community coming together and throwing those ideas to make what we see now. So thank you, Ann, because we would not be where we're at right now without that initial start. Is there any other public comment before I head to the next? Okay.
I just have a public comment. So Debbie Ponte with Destination Angels Camp, and as it was mentioned earlier, it was with Ann's kickstart, and probably a lot of kicking and screaming in that room. I think it was 2008 when the branding report came out, which I brought a copy for everybody tonight to review, so you can kind of reflect back as to where we started and where we are today. But Ann really was the jumpstart to Destination Angels Camp, and I'm pleased to be carrying on today. And she's been a good mentor and role model for me to follow, and sounding board as well. But also she made mention of the Mark Twain Wild West Fest, and Angels Camp will celebrate the 170th birthday of 1848 when Angels Camp came together, and we are going to be recognizing that at the Mark Twain Wild West Fest and making that kind of a focal point of our celebration. So, and it was Ann who pointed that out, because I think we probably would have forgotten until way after the fact. So anyway, look, stay tuned for our 170th kind of birthday during the Wild West Fest, which is Saturday, October 20th. downtown Angels Camp from 10 to 5. Thank you.
Any other comment? Oh, okay. With that, thank you, May. We move on to consent agenda. The following consent agenda items are expected to be routine. They will be acted upon the council at one time without discussion. Any council member, staff member, or interested person may request that any consent items be removed for discussion. Is there any council members that wish to pull any item from the consent agenda?
I'd like to pull item C.
Okay. Any other from the council? Nope. Okay, any public comment? Nope. Okay. So at this point, we will go ahead and, is there a motion to approve the consent agenda with item C being pulled?
So move.
I'll move to approve A, B, D, and E on the consent agenda.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Yeah, item number C. Mike, I really appreciate all the work you've done in getting us to this point here. That budget presentation was pretty detailed and amazing. I appreciate that. Given, though, the financial constraints that we have, I'm reluctant to sign off on what amounts to basically a 6-month extension or overlap between Mike and the finance director. I would like to think that 30 or 60 days is enough time, maybe with a couple phone follow-ups by phone if necessary. But I don't really want to write a $52,000 blank check. Given our financial constraints, I think that's one area we can possibly get away with counting on, say, 60 days, 30 days. I don't know what the overlap. It was 3 weeks for between the last financial director, and there was no time between the ones before that. I know it's hard to get caught up when there's the pressures on, but I think that 6 months is a luxury that we can't really afford. I'm curious to hear what your comments on that would be.
Okay, and I have a response to, they just follow up. I don't know, what do you want to wait us to discuss or her to respond? My only concern with your comment is we have not had the budget in front of us yet for a formal approval. I know the staff is still working really hard to get it to us, which at the end of the meeting, we're going to talk about final date for that budget. And since right now, so much of that time is being conducted to get what we've requested at our last budget workshop, I think we need to have a little bit more leeway because that's going to take away from the training and the overlap with Emily.
Yeah.
So I think we just need to be somewhat considerate of what demands we've already asked of him to complete, and then how much that's taken away from the training and what needs to be updated. So
I agree with that. I agree with what Amanda is saying too, that it should be extended. I think that we should trust staff and our city administrator to evaluate, and has been involved, so deeply involved in this, and the difficulty and the sacrifices that have been made already. I don't think we should put staff in position to have this kind of pressure and tension that goes on, and we really need to be able to train Emily. Is it Emily?
Yes.
Yeah, Emily.
Now, we're talking about cutting a police officer and having a luxury of 6 months worth of overlap. This is something I have a tough time with, so.
And I think from my perspective, it's budgeted and planned for 6 months of training. I think as Mike moves forward in that training, if it progresses quickly, I'm sure he's interested in turning over the reins to Emily as soon as possible. But I think the council should be aware that when Mike came on board, we were already a quarter behind. So bank reconciliations have not been done since September. There's a lot of month-end and accrual adjustments that have not been done since September. And it was my understanding that the previous financer was behind because of the council's decision to eliminate the accounting tech support that had supported them. And so I think we're seeing that the budget constraints are affecting all departments, police, public works, and finance. I think that 6 months is justifiable in terms of providing for success for my new finance officer, because I want for her to be successful, and I can't provide environments where people are set up to fail and struggle every single day that they come to work here. So it's my recommendation that we approve this at this point in time. Mike has no intention of being here just to be here. He has every intention of turning over the functions to Emily and seeing that she be successful, but I think we need the time allowable for that to happen. Given the delays that we've incurred internally with budget, I think the time's going to be needed. And I will turn it over to you, Mike, if you have anything to add about the internal function of the city and what you see in terms of workload, unless you're satisfied with my response.
I'm satisfied.
Okay.
I think that through conversations with Mike and what we've seen with the budget and his training, and then, of course, bringing Emily on as a 2-day employee so far, that we can approve, I'm okay with approving this with the knowledge, and I think that it's clear that Mike doesn't want to hang out with us. I mean, not that he doesn't like us, but I think he's wanting to get the training done, and will be constantly evaluating how she is progressing.
Yeah.
And hopefully you catch on real quick, and so it would be a lesser amount. You know, if he doesn't stay on the whole time, does he get the whole pay? Like,
It's as needed by the hour.
yeah. So with that, we're looking at a more controlled situation, and just with both of their attitudes, I know that you're ready to roll, and I know that you're ready for her to roll. So.
Melissa, I think,
Yeah.
I can support the contract for the 6 months, but what I'd like to see maybe from Mike at the first council meeting in August, kind of 3 or 4 top items that the area of training really needs to focus on, and maybe progress, just so we get a sense of how things are going and how comfortable you are with, you know, whether the bank reconciliations are where they need to be, or where the training on the software is where it needs to be, and just kind of a progress report, say once per month going forward. I'd be comfortable with going with it the way it's. Okay.
And I want to recognize, I share your concerned with the financial ties we have, but if we're going to keep going with what we're going, I think we need it in our best interest to have a house in order before we start.
Right, I just have total faith that 3 months would be plenty of time, even on a 25-hour work week or 32-hour work week. When you're training in a position like that, I don't believe you're sitting there 40 hours a week, 9 to 5 the entire day, side to side, going over stuff. And there's going to be point some stuff out, and then there's going to be some learning, homework kind of thing, if you will. So I'm thinking a couple, 2-3 days a week, or 20 hours a week, or something less than what we're talking about here. And again, we're being kind of hard-nosed in this budget. We have some real tough decisions to make, and to me, this is kind of a no-brainer to cut this back to half, to 26,000. We show the city, show the rest of the employees that we're fighting this budget equally. We're not trying to put it all on police's back. We're not trying to put it all on museums' back. We're asking Mike and Emily both to step up and do your best given the constraints.
I'm going to move approval of consent item C.
There's no further discussion. Is there a second?
I'll second with the caveat of the progress reports from Mike.
Can we do that, or do we need to go back for a new motion?
Does it have to be redone completely?
We'll do some public comment as well.
Okay, sorry. Public comment. I apologize. Okay. Any public comment?
Susan Morris, Angels Camp. I just want to say, as a taxpayer, I kind of appreciate what Scott's saying, and also I think what Veronica and Mr. Oliveira, right? I appreciate that. So anything that can be done to keep it at a minimum, but as a necessity, I would appreciate that that would be done. And I appreciate all of you who are standing up for the taxpayers too, because I think we're all funding this. Thank you.
If there's no further public comment, I'll bring it back to the council for a new motion with that amendment.
I'll
So
move-
Veronica, did you want to add that?
Yeah, I'll move that we
Right.
add that to amend the motion.
Susan, do you need that clarified, or do we have it?
Amend the motion.
To state the progress reports would be included. I think also let's say that if at some point in the next 6 months before that period is up, that, kind of include that in the motion as well, that we know that Mike would be relieved of his duties.
No, I think the contract states that it's as needed at will.
Oh, okay.
There's
So
a
we
dollar
don't
amount
need that.
With an
All right.
expiration not to exceed. And so I think that
Okay.
if Mike could choose not to come in some days, he's perfectly comfortable doing that. I think if Mike can
Mhm.
work 4 days, I think when he was introducing Emily to some of the other staff, he introduced her as his exit strategy. So I don't think. Oh, yeah, take it out. So.
No pressure.
Mike and I will work together to make sure that the training is going adequately. We will make sure that we are accountable to you each month with the expenses that are being expended. We will report back at 3 months just to let you know what we anticipate for the remainder of the contract. But I feel for Emily's success as a new finance officer. She has no city finance experience. She has no experience with our Springbrook financial system, and she's coming into a city when we are putting together a new financial strategy, and we're almost 1 year behind in terms of day-to-day maintenance within our financial system. Part of the problem that I'm having with our budget right now is being able to access sound financial data, and that's the same problem that Citygate is having, is we have difficulty making informed decisions because we don't have readily available that financial data. So for me, I feel that this is necessary in order to continue to move the city forward and make sure that Emily gets a good start here with us. We've also negotiated Emily's salary down for the period of her contract to afford to some degree this training. And then also within the admin and finance budget, the new employees that came to work for you cost less than the old employees, so we do have a savings. And then we did anticipate some overlap in this fiscal year that didn't happen in the 17-18, so there should be some savings there. We had anticipated a little bit of training in 17-18 that didn't happen. So for those reasons, I feel comfortable, and Mike and I will continue to be conservative in our expenses on this contract.
And I'd like to also remind the council, this was the direction we gave staff. So, they shouldn't come to a shock that this was what we supported going forward.
Right.
So, because we knew the state of our finances. So, I think we need to remember when we give direction to staff and they produce it, they're doing it not on a whim. They're doing it because we, as a consensus, directed them to do what is in front of us.
I don't recall ever having a conversation about 6-month full-time overlap between finance directors. There's never a 6-month.
Yeah, there was.
If I'm mistaken, I'm mistaken, but I don't recall that.
Yeah. I recall it, so.
Okay.
Yeah, I think I'm speaking of awareness of the struggles and all of what has been going on with the staff and without a finance person and so many things that, it's just not, again, my reasoning is, again, overburdening, and yet again, I think the limitations are well-founded.
I believe we have a motion on the table.
Did we get a second? Is that what you're waiting for?
I'm still speaking.
Veronica.
Hold on a second, I'm still speaking. We have a motion on the table. The motion was made by Vice Mayor with a second from Veronica. And now we will go back to council for, in support, please say aye.
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 Aye. Opposed?
Nay.
4-1. Okay, on to regular agenda. Acceptance of Caltrans project study report, project development support, that's repetitive, for 6 intersections with the City of Angels. Mr. Myers.
Well, thank you. Good evening. So the council item for tonight is consideration of a project study report, the project development support document produced by Caltrans staff. If you remember in the general plan, we have several new roads predicted for the northwest section of the city. Some of these roads are what I call the Angel Oaks extension, which runs from the intersection of Angel Oaks and Highway 4 up to Highway 49, just a little bit south of Capello. And then there's also the Foundry Lane extension, which runs from the Foundry Lane intersection with Highway 4 over to Angel Oaks extension. And then the last road is the infamous Road A, which is part of the Dogtown Road intersection problem with Highway 49. We were going to bypass that, come around to an intersection on Highway 49 by Francis Street. So all these roads make connections with the state highways, and so they require a certain amount of studies to get started. We did a corridor study, which basically solidified that these roads would be in there. And this is the second one. This is just a PSR, which basically looked at the intersections, the type of intersections there, and put a cost value to that. Caltrans is going to use this for their planning. Even though they have some numbers in there, they're just trying to estimate how much support they're going to lend to these type of projects. So they looked at several types of intersections, and they didn't recommend any particular ones. They looked at leaving the intersections as they are. They looked at putting signals at some of these, and they looked at putting roundabouts at some of these. They're varied, and they just have not made a recommendation on what type it is. This is pretty simple. It's just a confusing document that just gets us one step further on the path to getting these roads constructed. Inside the study, they do recommend, or they do state that the cost of all these intersection improvements will cost somewhere between $9.5 and $30.5 million. Those are real rough estimates. And you really can't put any confidence in those numbers. So basically, we're just recommending acceptance of this document and having the city administrator sign it and forward it back to Caltrans. One last little thing. I know Melissa's been in part of this process ever since the inception. And also in the audience is Matt Satow from Drake Hagelin, who has been part of the process. And if there's any good detailed questions, we've got some pretty good people to ask of them. So are there any questions?
Council?
Were any of these road extensions, any or all of these road extensions, to facilitate development, or was it purely congestion relief around 449?
A little bit of both. Originally, they were there to facilitate development, but you know, as anytime you get a secondary route around that intersection of 4 and 49, you're going to reduce the congestion of that intersection.
Yep.
You want to answer that?
Help you tackle that one a little bit too, though. Okay. So, Dave is correct. There's a little bit of both. Obviously, the development is planned in that corridor, and this all came out of the work with Caltrans. Originally, the problem you have is that with State Route 4 and State Route 49, those are both access-controlled expressways with Caltrans. So they don't allow connections from the intersection of State Route 4 and 49. They're not going to allow another signalized intersection for a half mile from there. And so these connections that are planned as part of your general plan, these are about quarter-mile spacing. That requires not only Caltrans approval, it actually requires the highest level of the transportation, which is the California Transportation Commission. It will require their approval on an exception. So as part of that, Caltrans is partnering with the city, said, let's help you build the case for getting this exception. Let's look at the overall land planning in this section. Let's look at, you can't just look at those intersections where you want the access. You have to look at a few of the intersections around there as well to see how that all interacts with each other. So that's really, in this study, what they call the PSR PDS, I'm not going to say the whole name of it, it's really a very high-level look at the problem. You're just trying to identify, again, what is the overall problem you're trying to solve, what are some of those potential solutions, and what are those ballpark, and Dave's absolutely 100% correct, the cost estimates that are in there those are such ballpark numbers that I agree with them. I wouldn't put a lot behind it yet. It's really Caltrans' attempt to try and the whole purpose of this document is to estimate how much effort is needed to now carry this project into the next phase, which is studying it from the environmental standpoint, as well as what we call the project approval standpoint. So that's really what this document is for. To get back to answering your question, is this development or operational? There are some existing operational deficiencies, as you know, Dogtown 49, 449. There are some operational issues there that Caltrans, that has been included as this larger part of this larger project. Caltrans is going to have to solve those problems. But again, this document had to look at that overall area. So it does include some of the existing operational. It does include some things for development, such as those new access points.
I have a question. You mentioned Dogtown Road, but the report is silent. I don't see Dogtown anywhere in the report. Is there no recommendation for what's done with that, or?
There's no, this document again doesn't, it does actually talk about Dogtown 49. It talks about in there the existing deficiencies there, but it doesn't go into concrete solutions yet because that would take a little more effort on the traffic study side. This document on the traffic side, what we do is we gather the existing information that's out there. We don't go do a whole bunch of new studies. This is a very low cost, again, high level document. So the next phase, what's going to happen, a more intricate traffic study is going to be done. They're going to go out there, they're going to do some traffic counts, they're going to do the whole traffic analysis, and then from there, solutions will be identified for each of those. Right now, again, they listed roundabout, traffic signal, stop control, there's potential solutions. Those are all standard solutions that come out of the toolkit. And the next phase, when we get into that traffic study, is where you're really going to start working with them to make decisions on what to do. Yes.
The document looked at Road A, which would take the traffic off of the Dogtown Highway 49 intersection.
Road A is Dogtown Road.
Right. Road A is the one that
Yeah.
goes from Dogtown by Gardner over to
Is it Francis?
by Francis Street. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it talks about the intersections. I don't see where it talks about the roads themselves, like Road A, where you connect. I don't know. We're talking about connecting
So page 6, the
Acorn to.
page 6, I think the build alternatives, intersection 5, State Route 49, Francis Street, Street A, new local road.
Okay, so Street A will be Francis Street up to Dogtown.
Right, that's a realignment of Dogtown.
Okay, so then the other one south of Capello goes to the west and connects with Angel Oaks.
Either, well, the different alternatives, one would connect to Angel Oaks, and I believe the other one would connect to the Foundry extension through there. That's
Okay.
really the primary difference between those two alternatives. One gives full access for Angel Oaks and 4, which then connects into that connection over on 49, and the other one brings it to Foundry and 4, and to the same connecting point on 49.
Is the Foundry Road within the quarter-mile restriction?
It is.
But Live Oaks is not? Both are.
Angel Oaks is about half a mile from the intersection, so you could do it, but again, the problem is the Angel Oak extension would then have to be brought back towards the intersection to get back to the planned road in the city's general plan. It's not quite as efficient, at least we haven't done the traffic study yet, but I just, from my perspective, it's probably not as efficient as giving access at Foundry.
And we've heard from the development community that access at Angels Oaks is a deal breaker, that they have no interest in developing Frog Jump Plaza Phase 2 if there's no access allowed at Foundry, which is why we've been pushing this conversation with Caltrans so heavily, is to get that break-in access at Foundry Lane. So this is the first step. It'll be the first official signed document. And just to clarify, this document was due to Caltrans on Friday, so it was executed and submitted according to that due date. But then the next goal, as Amy mentioned in her presentation, would be to do the specific plan in this area so that we could dive down further into those traffic impacts to justify this need to Caltrans. Give them the information they need to go to CTC and request that break. We also have a developer who's interested in being a financial contributor to the study of that specific plan.
What do those plans normally run? Again, ballpark.
The specific plan, generally, they cost about $70,000 to $100,000. What we asked for from the budget was specifically for engineering cost estimates for infrastructure, which you have to actually have a professional engineer detail out for us. So we'll do the rest in-house and then contract out to an engineer. Does that?
So it's exciting to have this progress. It's exciting to have
Wonderful.
Caltrans as a partner.
Yes.
And it's exciting to see that they put our alternative on paper and that they're willing to continue through the next phase with us. We also are engaging in conversations with the Council of Governments to explore if there's any regional funding that might be able to help assist with some of the improvements along the corridor if we're successful in moving this project forward.
Then, public comment? Oh.
Patsy Gonzalez, 1600 Depot Road, also a planning commissioner. In my duties as a planning commissioner, I am also on the General Plan Implementation Committee. At one point, it was a few years back, we did a kind of a survey of circulation for the city, and alternative Street A seems to be a really important part. And if I understand correctly, this document will have both alternative 1 and 2 in it, or do you have to make a decision yet?
No.
Okay, so what I would like to say is I'm in support of this, getting this document to, into the hands of Caltrans.
Any other public comment? Oh, okay, at that point, I'll bring it back to council. If there's no further discussion, is the motion?
I'll move to approve the report.
A second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Yay.
Thanks, Dave.
Next is consolidated staff report. So in front of us, we have staff report. Is there any comment by the council regarding staff report? No? Any public comment? No? Okay. I do want to do a shout out to everyone that was involved with the fire. So I know they're still actively working out there, so thank you. I think you guys got it out in what, less than an hour? Yeah. Moved pretty fast. Council reports, and I will start to my left.
Attended the water meeting. Both Scott and I did. So our report will be the same basically from there. Unfortunately, Murphy's Water isn't going to be on our remat. I've been going to farmers market. It seems that it's been pretty successful. I encourage people to come out. It's even on these hot days down at the park, there's lots of shade and a breeze comes through. So it's a lot more pleasant than up on the street. And it's just a good time. You'll see a lot of locals and a lot of vendors. That's it.
Okay, nothing to report.
Scott?
No report.
I attended the Museum Commission meeting on the 21st. I think activities there are pretty well highlighted in the consolidated staff report, so I don't think I have anything to add there. I attended the budget workshop on the 29th, and then on a personal note, with regard to personal interest, I noticed an opening on the Fish and Game Commission in the county, and I applied and was appointed to that commission, which is independent of appointments by council, so I'm on that with meetings Wednesdays, fourth Wednesdays, excluding November and December, so I don't see any conflicts with it. That's it.
No comment. Next is a new item, not new, correspondence. So we have 4 items under item number 11 for correspondence. If there's
Just general
just
information
information,
to the
okay.
council.
Okay.
Just wanted to make sure that you were.
So some of them is like the Central Sierra Economic Development Summit and Workshop. That's on the 26th of July, if anyone's interested. There's a bunch of,
Yeah, just general information, either information that we've received from community groups that they ask that we distribute to you, information that's been shared from other council members that they thought you, as fellow council members, might find interesting, just information to share. Should you have any comments or further direction to staff, we'd be happy to entertain that, but just general information to make you aware of.
thank you for adding that. Okay, if there's no other, moving on the calendar. And then when you're done with that, let's talk about budget.
Okay, first let me ask, is there a UWPA meeting on July 24th?
I believe so.
Okay. I had it on my calendar, but there was a question from another council member. Okay, tomorrow, city offices are closed in observance of Independence Day. Have a great time, and please don't burn anything down. COG has been moved to the 11th at 5:30 at the Board of Supervisors chambers, and the transit meeting is after that at 6.
Is the Board of Supervisors now, because it was someplace else, the transit? On the 11th, you said?
Yeah, is the transit in a different place?
Well, I heard it was going to be, but maybe.
Okay, I haven't been informed of that.
Okay.
Planning Commission meets on the 12th at 6 o'clock here. And the 16th of July, Solid Waste Task Force at 3:45, LAFCO at 6 p.m. And we're back here for City Council on the 17th at 6 o'clock. But I think the mayor is going to speak to the need for a special council meeting to complete the budget process.
So as staff, it was my understanding that when we left the budget workshop, staff was directed to bring back final budget on the July 17th meeting. We are made aware that 2 council members may not be able to attend. Legal is checking to see if 4/5 votes required to approve the budget. But staff is seeking direction if there's an alternative date before the end of July that works well. And the mayor had potentially proposed July 23rd, which is a Monday. And I'll go ahead and turn it over to you, but as far as I understand, otherwise it's direction to staff to bring it back on July 17th.
I'm sorry, it's too late to bring it back on July 17th because I cannot notice it properly.
The budget hearing?
Yes.
10 days.
10 days. We should be.
I can't get it into the newspaper before 10 days.
Okay, we might explore alternatives.
Okay, so with that, let's at least explore what the other dates are outside of the 17th. I know we had talked about the 16th, but that conflicts with LAFCO. Is the 23rd something that the rest of the council members can do, or is there another suggestion?
In the evening?
It's good for me.
The same time?
What time? 10 o'clock?
No.
6
o'clock.
Oh, I'm sorry. I apologize. The 23rd's good with me.
Me too. It'd be great.
Okay,
Yeah.
so can we move the 17th to the 23rd so we don't have, move the council meeting from the 17th to the 23rd, complete budget, any other items, and then just be done for the month? Is that okay with the rest of council, rather than having 2 meetings or 3 meetings in a week?
Yeah, will we see the alternative approaches to the budget well in advance of that?
So in terms of the alternative approaches, the direction that we received from the council to consider the adjustments to the museum, to consider the police department vehicle, we increased DAC, and so we plan on bringing you a budget with those discussions. If there's room in the general fund, we'll bring you the recommendations for alternatives. For example, the IT needs and the specific plan that were also talked about. Is that what you're referring to?
Yes, plus we talked about adjustments to TOT, as I
Yes,
recall.
yes.
Okay.
So we plan on increasing the TOT. We plan on having the meeting with the Museum Foundation and the Museum Commission. We still have the reduction to the Mark Twain Wild West Days. We have the increase to DAC of $5,000. We'll be taking the contract out of the general fund for the ballot measure, putting that towards our DAC contract, and then also be looking at the technology need of $11,000 and the specific plan that Amy brought forward in her presentation as well.
And when are we meeting with museum? Or are we not?
I've proposed some dates next week, and I will be finalizing the letter and getting that out to them as quickly as possible. So my goal is to bring you that budget with those recommended changes, and then also to meet with you one-on-one between now and that date to see if there's any issues or concerns that we might be able to clarify, so that we walk in with a final budget and you're ready to accept.
And then can we have the vote on the specific plan money separate? I need to recuse myself from that vote.
Yes.
Before, and have it done before we pass the overall budget.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, does that make, are we good, Susan? Okay, with that, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
There you go. There you go. We're done.